Okay, welcome everyone. And today I have Cal, the knowledge keeper, once again. And we're going to have a bit of a discussion. And normally we would be out in nature. We're normally roaming around on Crestbrook Dale. But today I'm down in Devon. You're up there in Derbyshire. So we have decided to jump on Zoom because there's so much unfolding. And I know that you want to talk about a few topics. So we're just going to freewheel and just tell us what are things coming, what are the things coming up for you, and what's on your mind, and what would you love to talk about today and share with the viewers?
Well, I've found myself to possibly have a chronic condition. I've been doing some fasting twice. I think one was about 4 weeks ago now, and then the other one was about 2 weeks ago, I believe, approximately. And I didn't do the fasting very well at all, actually. I think what I did was I came out of the fasting incorrectly by introducing food too quickly, which could cause refeeding syndrome. Luckily, I've not got a serious situation from that first phase of fasting. The second time I fasted, however, I came out much better with just taking like a smoothie just to get the digestive system kicking in again. But it seems that I've got a digestive problem that's chronic because I'm getting acid reflux, I'm getting the belching, bloating, dry throat, which
Okay.
probably relates to the blood sugar fluctuation, basically.
Okay, so where did you get this diagnosis, Cal?
I mean, I didn't, well, I didn't go to the doctors to do it. It was more like I did a lot of research into all these different things that you could have, and ruling out every single possible symptom of a different
Okay, so but what I'm
condition.
saying is, who said you have a chronic? Because that's quite a. I'm just gonna just like go into the spelling of this because this is us. The words and the phrases we use are really important. So this thing, chronic condition. What do you mean by chronic condition?
Uh, oh, I don't know the word itself, as in what it really means, but a condition that is basically, in a sense, could be severe if not managed properly. I'd say.
Okay.
So
So, all right, Cal. I mean, obviously, I'm not a holistic healer or a qualified health professional. But one thing I do know, and sorry, I'm not trying to fix you here, but I just wanted to say that our body is just speaking to us the whole time. So sometimes we're feeling really expansive and healthy and happy and joyful and we're in flow. And other times we get ill and we get sick. And it's just our body, it's our body's language. So all your body is doing is just speaking to you. So all you have to do is just listen, and your body is a healing machine. So nothing is chronic actually. In truth, not even stage 4 cancer. People have healed from really serious things. Like my bleeds on the brain last year, which 20 50% of people die within 28 days from that. And I was very lucky because I was surrounded by holistic therapists and healers, and I was there. I was having sound healing and essential oils and all sorts of stuff, and I healed myself. And I went back for the MRI scan, and it's like there's no problem. Everything, your body's cleared it, completely healed. So it's like I'm a great believer in healing. So yeah. So I think this is really important because I've just recently done the liver cleanse actually, and I've done things like water fasting and juice fasting, and you know, it's um, I would say it's very unlikely that you've done any long-term damage, and that if you eat healthily, and by which I mean lots of fresh, organic, really key, organic fruit and veg, alongside supplements, your body will heal itself. It just will, you know.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't worry too much. But I think the thing is, going to come on to the second thing that you mentioned before the call, because which is world events. Because
Yeah.
I know having, because I'm following your Telegram group, and I'll
Yeah.
put the link to it below. And having spoken to you in the past, I know that you're sort of finding life difficult to digest at the moment with everything that's unfolding.
I mean, I'm on and off emotionally, up and down.
Well,
It's
you
like,
see, this is the thing. It's like, so every it's not just about what we're eating, but it's also what our body's saying to us metaphysically. So if we have problems with our ears, it's like, what don't you want to hear, or what don't you want to listen to? Or if we have problems with our throat, like what don't we want to express, or what don't we feel we can express? And so if you've got problems with your stomach, it is literally like, what what is it about life that I'm finding difficult to stomach, or about my relationships, or what's going on in the world? So maybe let's speak a bit to that, because it's a very intense time. um, Even if you stay off the doom and gloom, which I tend to, as much as I can, but it still sort of seeps through in all sorts of places. So talk to us about that, Cal.
I mean, I do agree with the side of where you're saying about um the energy with the solar plexus chakra, which is basically the stomach and the digestive side of it. Um, Maybe I'm trying to stomach life, but it's difficult because I've been thinking about, the future may be uncertain for all of us, and we may not survive. Or I mean, I've been saying all sorts of things on my Telegram group, like a whole heap of things, just
Yeah.
on and off emotionally as well. Uh, but yeah, there's obviously the Iran and Israel thing. There's the news on the digital ID they're trying to implement again for the second time, I think, or maybe even more. I think it's more than twice now. Um, and then obviously I'm worried about my health and worried about other people as well. They've got their um, imbalances or problems or whatever you want to call them, basically. Uh,
People, friends
uh,
close to you. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of negative going on. But I'm trying to pull through everything. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I mean, when I found out that I was having like health problems, I went on I did this speech, sorry, on my group, and because I was like expressing what I wanted to express out, it wasn't really more of the left brain; it was more of the emotional right brain. Um, because of how I felt, basically, I just felt like I wanted to say a lot of things about the world, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, so I kind of feel a bit inspired, because I did a post this morning about law of attraction and Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, and uh, her teachings is really like focus on what you do want. So rather than us focusing on the problems, what what would you love to manifest or create, like individually or collectively, or what alternative, what resolution would you love to see happen? Let's maybe focus on the expansion rather than the contraction.
yeah. Well, for starters, to get myself back into balanced routine without having any health problems. For starters, literally, because that's the most important thing I would say. Because I've been getting emotional about it, been feeling a bit depressed about it actually as well. But I need to get myself on the higher ground instead of being on the lower ground. Um, but I've been trying different things as well. I am taking herbs and
Have you
certain.
have you got anyone looking after you?
Yeah, my mother and my stepfather. I'm at my house at the moment, so
Yeah.
but it's not easy to get along with them because they're on a different level of consciousness. In the sense of uh, they see certain things like like Starmer, for example, everybody hates Starmer, but they don't simply see the bigger picture there of how bad the world really is. They only see it on a certain scale or level. They can only see what they can see, basically.
I mean,
And
maybe that I'm going to play devil's advocate here, Cal, but maybe that's a good thing. It's like, people say to me, "Oh, you have to keep, watching the TV and keeping updated, otherwise you won't know what's going on in the world." I kind of like, actually,
yeah,
I prefer not to know the detail because of the horror of it. So, and it's actually quite interesting if I sort of think back to the pre-COVID era when all of this wasn't unfolding and it wasn't a preoccupation, and before I started really going down that rabbit hole. Actually, I have to say, life was a lot simpler and a lot happier because I didn't realize the extent of what was going on. So I think there is such a thing as kind of blissful ignorance, isn't there, to an extent, maybe?
I see the side where you don't want to look at what's going on because it can overwhelm you or make you depressed um, or disrupt your life balance or what you're doing. But there's also the side where you have to pay attention as well because if you don't see it coming, but then I suppose at the end of the day as well, you could actually just have intuition and think, well, I don't need to see what's happening because I have a good idea what could happen.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. It's like whatever we put our energy and our attention on, we get more of.
Mm.
So we're constantly focused on doom and gloom and problems and ill health and uh, you know, conflicts, whether they're within our home or on the world stage, then we're just going to kind of manifest more of that. So it's important for us individually and collectively to start energizing what we do want,
Yeah,
not what we don't, and even saying, I'd like to clear up my health problems is very different to saying, uh, I'm visioning being in full flow of vitality and in radiant health, and my body is strong and
yeah,
fit, and life feels good, and I'm in flow, and everything's working, and life feels effortless. Those kind of things. And
yeah.
envisioning a world where the old order has just collapsed under the weight
Collapsed.
of its own rotten, satanic evil, and in its place we are birthing through a new golden era of love and joy and peace and harmony and vitality, and we're restoring the sacred geometry of the planet, and all of this chaos will just fall away in favor of this radiant. I'm just pointing to the mandala behind me, actually, because that sacred geometry is, in truth, what lies beyond the veil. And so, this apocalypse, which we're going through, means the lifting of the veil beyond the dark clouds, like there's grey clouds in the sky here in Devon today. There's still sun behind there. If I went up in a plane through the clouds, I'd get to the blue sky. It's just a veil of cloud which makes it seem like it's dull and there's no light, but the light is still there. And so to an extent it could well be that the level of doom and gloom and horror is being deliberately manufactured because the veil is thinning and the Wetiko knows that it won't survive. It's starving and it can't survive, and it's having to create all of this chaos. So actually, this could be a good thing, a good sign that
Yeah.
it's all crumbling.
Well, I'll add to that really because I'm living this life now where all these labels and all these assigning yourself to certain words or people thinking they know everything and all that. There's so much basically like ego basically that things like expert or doctor or specialist of something or VIP celebrity, whatever, it doesn't really matter what word you use. All these labels, they don't have any meaning anymore because to me, we're just one man or one woman living in this world of wisdom.
Yes. Well, we're spiritual beings having a human experience in truth.
Yeah,
We're eternal beings. We were never born, we never die. And when we can, it's easy to forget that because of the distraction.
exactly. Yeah,
And then sometimes you just kind of, oh yeah, I get it. This is an illusion. I just really landed that through doing plant medicine, in particular ayahuasca. I've just been shown about that it is just an illusion, and it's just a game, and beyond the illusion is just this field of infinite consciousness, which is just pure love, bliss, sacred geometry. And it's easy to lose connection. It's easy
yeah,
to lose that full connection to that source energy of infinite abundance, prosperity, vitality, and to come out of balance, to come out of alignment, basically. Yeah.
yeah. The other thing as well is if you keep looking at yourself as purely your name, for example, like me, Callum, or you, Rachel, we're still looking at the phantom self, not the inner side of us, where it's completely labelless or
Yeah.
nameless, and it's just energy, basically. We've got
Yeah.
no identity.
Yes. Yes.
That's how I want it to be for the rest of my life now, literally.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's things like Hollywood as well that's collapsing down. I mean, people are seeing through the ideologies. They're seeing through all the wokeism. They're seeing through all the different things that are just trying to divide
Yeah.
and conquer, basically.
Yeah. I don't know if you watched that video that I posted by that professor from China.
No,
I think I put it on your channel. It's
yeah,
about
I think you
an
did.
hour
Yeah,
long, but it's well worth a watch. And I'll put the link to it below because he explained in detail, because he's a teaching professor, and I think he's a professor of economics or world politics or something. And he, in this seminar, it was like a teaching session with a blackboard, like a digital blackboard, where he was explaining exactly how the world works in terms of the cabal. And he was explaining about how Epstein fitted into it because he represented the Rothschilds and all of these Jewish
mm,
connections and the money and he was talking about the power of this elite is through mind control, and the key things are education, media, and also culture, by which he meant Hollywood. So
yeah,
it's things are conditioning society to create this illusion, and they use labels to pigeonhole, and very manipulative way. So with the media, they will always attach a label to someone like
yeah.
failed entrepreneur or anti-vaxxer or anti-Semite or
Pretty much anything in the book.
witch or disgraced doctor. That they used that on Dr. David Cartland, disgraced local GP. So
Yeah,
they will add these labels because the masses respond. It just helps if you like put someone in a compartment. Oh yeah, he's a far right extremist. Oh, he's
yeah.
a
It's
disgraced GP. He's an anti-vaxxer. And this is what they were saying, is that if you can create that construct of reality, this is what Professor, I think his name's Zhang, is saying. He's quite a famous guy actually. He's saying if you can create a construct of reality that people really believe in, they have massive resistance to anyone who questions it. And I found this when I was standing for election, and I stood for 3 times, and I went to all the hustings. So
Yeah.
I'm there along with the Labour candidate and the Conservative candidate and the Liberal candidate and the Green candidate. And I was just completely breaking the illusion, questioning everything. And the audience were heckling me and and they really didn't like the fact that I was rattling the cage of the established norm. Um, so deep was this program embedded in people. It was really a really interesting process to be part of.
Yeah. It's the thing about questioning and everything that is, because a kid, when they're a young age, from let's say, I don't know, 3 years of age, approximately, uh, they always say things like, "Why does that happen? Why is this that?
Yeah,
Whatever." That's what we should be doing all life long.
I know. But that's the thing is that at school, you get told to be quiet, sit down, shut up, and you get full
Yeah.
marks for compliance, and you get told off for disobedience and non-compliance. So
School
yes,
for me was bad. I know
yes.
that.
So what was your schooling like, Cal? I'm really interested to know.
Well, I mean, technically, infant school wasn't really bad. And then I went to primary school, which was like some good and some bad. But when I went to secondary school, that's when it got really bad. I mean,
And did you go to like a state school or?
it was a junior school. Sorry, not junior school. Infant school for starters, local around my area. And then, no, yeah, nursery, then infant, that was it, yeah. And then I went to a school which was a bit far from where I am. Well, I wasn't in this house at the time as well. I was in my first house and in the second house. This is my third house, which was a primary school further away from here. And then I went back to the school that I was in before. It would be the junior school within the the level you go up basically. So same school again. And then basically I went to a secondary school, which was also a bit far from here as well.
But it was a state school, is what I'm saying. It wasn't a public school or a private school.
I
It was just like a comprehensive, was it? Or a grammar school? I don't know
think
if
it's
they still have those.
yeah, definitely public.
What sort of school was it? Just like a
Uh,
state-run school.
I'm not sure actually. I
Did
know
your
the name of
parents
the school.
pay for your education? Did you pay any fees to go to this school?
No,
No. So it
no,
was a state education school, just to clarify, because
yeah,
that can make a difference, because I mean I went to a girls' grammar school and my son, my younger son, went to a state school, but then for his sixth form, he actually went to a public school funded by my ex-husband. And the transformation in him when he suddenly went into this public school from being in a state school, this public school amongst very rich children of very successful, high-powered people, and I think it was I don't know at least 10,000 a term. He completely transformed into being this sort of um, like thinking like an elite, because that's what you're taught in public school. It was such an interesting thing to observe him
yeah,
transforming before my very eyes into this kind of like real, like the kind of person who would go on to run a bank or become a politician or become prime
yeah.
minister or become a pillar of the establishment, so to speak. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I digress, Cal. So,
That's right.
what was your secondary school like then? What did you do well, or were you compliant, or did you get into trouble a lot, or?
Well, actually, I was a completely different person back then compared to who I am now. Um, I basically was diagnosed with autism, even though it's a label again. But
Ah, okay. So who
um,
who did this diagnosis?
NHS, the
And
National Health Service did it.
all right, so and was do you believe that was linked to anything? Like, for example, jabs?
Well, you see, the thing is, down my journal um, to figure out why I've got it. There's only two options of the reason why I could have it. One, because I've had a jab when I was a baby, or the fact I nearly drowned in the pool in Benidorm.
Oh, and so that sounds quite traumatic. Let's just talk about that for a second. How old were you when this incident happened?
2003 time, August. That was from 20, no, 30 now. So we have to go down 6, 6. So I got 1, 2, 20 something. 23 years ago.
So how old were you? 23
Um,
years ago.
oh, 20 years, 30, 7.
Okay, so you were 7 and you were on holiday with your family in Benidorm. And so, yeah, tell us what happened.
Basically, I had my armbands on in the pool. I came out of it eventually, and then sat on the sunbed. And for some reason, I just wanted to go back in the pool without having noticed that I had no armbands on. So I was just stupid to go in again. Basically jumped in, and then I was just drowning because I couldn't swim. And luckily, I managed to hold on to my dad's leg, who had his legs in the pool, and he got me out in time.
Wow.
That's how it worked.
Okay, so let's do a little trauma somatic thing around that. So as you talk about that experience and you tune back into it, do you feel anything in your body like a clenching or a
Um,
panic feeling?
no, not really. I mean, I'm more thinking on the left brain side. If I was looking with the right brain and feeling this energy, then yeah.
And
But
what I'm saying is, like, as you tune into that experience and you tune into your body, do you feel any kind of contraction of fear and panic, or is it frozen?
I think it's frozen.
Okay, because as you're speaking to that, I can actually, funnily enough, I am feeling a contraction in my stomach. So it may not be, but it could be that this feeling in your stomach, this condition, is that frozen trauma, which is kind of knocking to say, I'm calling to be healed. Because um, because what happens with trauma, if you have a highly traumatic incident where it's like a shock and you think you might die and you're, you know, if you can't fight and you can't fly, you freeze. And so all of that kinetic energy is frozen into your energetic grid. And quite often with fear, it is in the stomach. So if you're really terrified of something, it's almost like you can feel your insides collapsing, like that kind of feeling. So
Does make sense because the adrenaline's released in the solar plexus chakra,
yeah, yeah.
one of the glands. Yeah,
So it could actually be, and I mean, I've done a 4-year training in trauma healing, so it's really interesting that we're having this conversation and we seem to have got to this topic. It
yeah.
could well be that the two are linked and that your body is basically, because obviously you've opened the other big thing that you haven't mentioned, we've mentioned it in previous interviews, but not so much today, is that you've opened to the master plant teacher, the plant medicine ayahuasca, haven't you? So the interesting thing about opening to that work, and I don't mean work as in like hard work, I mean, but it is a devotion and it's a commitment. What happens, it's almost like you turn a key in an engine. It's almost like you get on a roller coaster ride. So life suddenly becomes a bit more of a roller coaster ride where you've basically opened the floodgates to go on a sort of transformational journey of healing and enlightenment. And she is a master plant healer and teacher. So it's quite possible that this is part of that. It's been triggered by that, but not in a bad way, because she works for our ultimate healing. Because the more we can heal our trauma, the more we can be in flow, you know.
Yeah.
So this is it's an interesting thing that the two could be linked, is what I'm saying. And just by giving conscious awareness to it, just by bringing it out of the darkness into the light and shining a light of conscious awareness on it, is powerful. It's a powerful healing.
So basically, because I've opened to the grandmother, I'm getting this now thing that's come about. So like there must be something happening, but it's like some transformational thing, or
yes. Well, it's like you're being shown, your body's showing you. It's saying, pay attention, because there's something I can't digest, there's something I can't stomach. And so if you did have this shock trauma, this frozen energy, it's a blockage, because the Kundalini loves to flow. But these traumas, they're like hardening, and they create blocks. So healing is about softening and restoring the sacred geometry of your energetic grid. Put it like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So that,
I mean, the other. Oh, sorry.
You could just hand that over to the universe. Like, a good time is when you go to sleep, is to basically just offer up an intention or prayer or whatever your process is, to say, bring me clarity in my dreams. Because quite often when we go to sleep, when we go into those delta states and theta, when we drop from the logical mind into those altered mind states, you get guidance and insights coming up in dreams, or you wake up with a download. It often happens to me, like vivid dreams, or like you waking up with the answer. And it's can be a really interesting process.
I did actually have a dream where I was actually being healed by a shaman, I think, or someone within the spiritual side of things. He had like one normal eye, and then one eye that was like it had like patterns on it. Basically, it wasn't like a normal eye; it was like a solid eye.
Okay.
Not sure what you call those types of people, but basically, but before it was like in this setting where they were doing all the sound stuff, the smoke and all that, like this. And then basically I went into this room or house or something, and then basically I met that person or being, and then basically I was like being laid down, I think it was, and then it was doing like the smoke over me, and then the sounds and stuff, and I felt this energy when I was sleeping.
Wow.
So it's quite an interesting dream, because I've not had a dream like that for a long time, since I've had dreams like when I was like very young, like being like an insect in nature and having this tingling sensation as well when I was sleeping.
Yeah.
That was very good.
Well, it is a common thing, actually, having psychic surgery from higher dimensional beings. So shamans, shamans basically are opening the veil. So the way a shaman works is they're sealing the lower dimensional. That's why they're using smoke and sound and creating safe containers, because you want to seal the door to where evil dwells. So the Wetiko, you don't want the lower dimensional entities coming into the sacred space when you do a ceremony. But what they're doing is, because they're basically creating a really sacred space, and so it's a high vibration, so the lower dimensional entities cannot penetrate there, they cannot enter there, and if they're existing, they're flushed out, so like,
Yeah.
that's why in an ayahuasca ceremony it's very easy if there's an entity, it will make itself known and it can be removed and healed and returned back to the light. So but what they're doing is they're opening the dimensions to the higher realms, and they're working with light beings and power animals and spirit guides and this higher dimensional energy that lies beyond the veil that locks us into this false matrix. So once you start working with ayahuasca and plant medicines, and you kind of lifted the lid at some level on these higher dimensions, and so it's easier for a higher dimensional shaman or light being to connect to you. And because when you're in your sleeping mode, you don't have resistance, like if in your waking mode you were going down the street and a light being came up and started, like, you go maybe. Whereas when you're asleep in a dream, you don't have the same resistance to it. It's a bit like being under an anesthetic or something. So you're much more open.
Yeah.
And so I've had that before, where I've had higher dimensional light beings who come and do psychic surgery on me, and it's amazing. I've had that over the years, not that often, but I have had some really vivid dreams like that. So for you to have dreamt that, I'd say that's a really auspicious, good dream to have had. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I can't remember any other dreams I've had when I was younger, but that one when I was in like nature, it was all like it was like the sun shining down, things looked a bit very bright, like glittery, sort of, I think. But I was like, it was like a first person view. That was it, not third person.
Yeah.
And there was like an insect on the ground or something in nature,
Yeah.
and all I could feel was like this tingling sensation whilst I was dreaming. So
Yeah. Interesting. And also, interestingly, because I'm really tuning in to signs and symbols and things. I'm in an even more heightened way than ever before. And just before we came live, I was just checking into my phone and sending a response, and a message came through from the jungle expedition that's we're booked, what I'm booked on, that is happening later this year, where we're going to work with the Shipibo tribe in the jungle in Peru. And now we're talking about this, and the fact that came through, Cal, is really interesting. That literally just popped in just before this call, when I was just, because we were setting up, and I was just checking into my phone and covering stuff off before we started. So I don't know, maybe you're being called to work with the Shipibo, because they are the doctors of the jungle, and their medicine is, I've had their medicine before, and it's absolutely exquisite. And it may well be, quite possibly, that the medicine you had was from the Shipibo. So it's like if you have it's like if you have the medicine from a tribe, you've then got an energetic connection to that tribe that is sort of calling you. And so when that trip came up, I just felt this instant, yes, I have to go, even though, like, I didn't have a clear kind of view of where the money was going to come from, or whether I'd be able to have the time to do it. Like, 'cause it takes a good 2 weeks, because it takes a couple of days to get there and back to go into the jungle, because it's not a straightforward. It's a real pilgrimage. It's not just like flying to Benidorm or something, or. and then you got to go on the boat, usually down the river or whatever. So yeah, anyway, just throwing that out there. It might be, I don't even know if there's any spaces left, but it might be something for you to consider, to really opening to that, because it could well be, Cal, and just again I'm throwing this out there. It could well be that you're being called to be a shaman, and you can go and work with the shamans and learn to become a curandero, which is someone who holds space and serves sacred medicines, and many people that I know who are on this path have started going to ceremonies and then eventually end up training and becoming space holders and to actually host ceremonies. I mean, you're still young, aren't you?
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I
Anyway,
don't feel 30
just
years of
throwing
age
it
though.
out there as a possibility, maybe.
I mean, it would be great if I did. Actually, it doesn't make sense because there's been a time where I was like, I would want to do more in life, instead of going to work all the time or being at home and dealing with parents or anything else. Just want to go out and do more great things and use my
Yeah,
energy wisely.
yeah. Anyway, I'm just planting the seed of that, because this is the thing that that, and it's a really interesting for me to look back on my life at when I opened to plant medicine, and also to a lot of other people, and I've introduced people to that path, and just to see the absolute transformation that brings. It quantum leaps you. It's like you move to the next octave, and obviously there's a lot of integration, and every time you do it you go deeper and deeper. I mean, every time I've been on quite a few spiritual pilgrimages to Peru, mainly to the mountains, not so much to the jungle. And that was the Quechua tribe, so they're the mountain shamans, as opposed to the Shipibo, who are in the jungle. Then you've got like the Honey Quinn and the Yawanawa, and they've all got their own practices and chants and icaros and ways of doing ceremony. So and ways of making the medicine, and they use different blends and different mixtures depending on their traditions. So it's really fascinating, that whole world. But yeah, it completely transforms your life, and that's why it's not something you can sort of dip your toe into, you know.
Yeah. You know, when the signs of when you've taken the grandmother,
Yeah.
like completely feeling sick from head to toe and all the shaking and going on.
Oh
Is the
yeah.
shaking part all about the trying to clear the energy blockages, basically?
Yeah. So and yeah, I've had that thing where it's basically you start to shake, and it's like that is a form, in my experience, that is a form of resistance, because it's like you've got an ego resistance. It's like you're slightly fighting the medicine. So the medicine's trying to work through you and to clear the blockages and the traumas, and it's also quite often will take you into visions which are related to the thing that it's wanting you to clear. But it can be quite frightening, and so the body, the ego self, starts resisting through fear and goes into a contraction. So like that's why I was talking about somatic experiencing, because generally you're either in an expansion or you're in a contraction, and definitely if you go into fear, that's a contraction. So if you start
Yeah,
contracting, and like you know the kundalini, which is trying to flow, and the energy as she's trying to heal you, and you can go into that contraction, and it's a bit like that in childbirth. I've experienced that, where you are like really frightened, and it doesn't help the process, because you need to allow the contractions, like waves, even though they're really painful. They're more painful if you're frightened and you're resisting them than if you just go, oh, okay, there's a contraction coming in. Just allow it, like a yoga stretch. And then it will subside, and it's kind of like in and out and in and out, and then you get this, it's like a big yoga stretch, and then it's released, and then another yoga stretch, and it gets stronger and stronger as the baby's coming out. And so it's like a bit like, so doing plant medicine is a bit like giving birth, in that it's important to surrender, trust and surrender into the process and allow. And that's why a good shaman would keep helping you to move the energy through, wherever it's stuck, and using all sorts of tools, and sound as well is a big one. Tuning forks and Tibetan bells and music, and also things like smoke and smells, to help you to move that and clear that energy through, and feathers and all these kind of different shamanic techniques to help move that energy, the stuck, blocked energy, which is where the trauma is. It's like a blockage. Yeah. So wow. And of course, that whole purging thing, it's your body. It's not being sick, it's getting well. That's what they say. So it's like yes, you're vomiting a substance, but it's not like being sick. It's like an energetic purge to help you clear through that stuck energy. And quite often you can have a purge of just sobbing and crying, and like tears of, decades old grief, like frozen tears that you couldn't cry at the time. Just, you see people really, really sobbing during ceremonies when they've maybe touching into grief that they haven't processed or whatever. So it's a very strong experience. Yeah. So that
I mean,
would have been
when
what
I
the
was doing
shaking
it,
was.
when I was doing it, was like the low of energy was just so powerful. It was like, oh, like this, and then like it was like, oh, this is impossible. This is impossible. But I'm actually experiencing it basically, and it's like it's overwhelming as anything.
Well, that was your first time.
Mm.
So, yeah, it's very powerful. I mean, oh my goodness, I remember my first experience. It's like I really the second, because normally you do sort of 2 nights. So the first night was actually not too bad, and in that way she's actually quite a good saleswoman, because she gives you a kind of gentle introductory experience, which can be quite wonderful. And that kind of clears the path a little. And then you go in for the second night, and boom, it's like, because you're sort of much more open, she can really then get to work, and it can be very intense. So that's why it's so important to trust and surrender, because if you fight it and you go into that contraction, that's what can cause the problems, because you're in a battle that you can't win, to be quite frank about it. So really important to just remember those 2 words, trust and surrender, and to just keep breathing and allow, and purge whatever you need to purge. Yeah.
I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about it right now.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. It's like, and the other interesting thing is, when you commit to a ceremony or a retreat, like the Shipibo one, it's like the ceremony starts from the moment you make the commitment.
Yeah.
So when I heard about this, and I felt this instant yes, and I happened to have some money at the time, so I paid the deposit, like yes, and sent the money. So that's an energetic commitment, and it's like, okay, we've started. It's like this. So I've noticed that my life has really gone to the next level of intensity just through making that commitment. And it's almost like, you know, and it's not till, I don't know, November time. So it's like my whole life is becoming ever more powerful and strong. And so it's like having to increase our capacity to hold a much bigger amount of energy and stuff that's unfolding. So,
Yeah.
you know, and I experienced that this weekend, like a really intense like challenge. And then it took me a while to process it and then come back to that center and realize, I'm just being taken to the next level. It's like this is an advanced training program. And it's all because I've committed to doing this work with the Shipibo. You know, I'm like, so I'm on the journey, even though it's not for a few months yet, the actual going. Yeah. But it's really interesting actually, because that message was, if you haven't booked your flights, you better book them soon, because and this is the interesting thing about this whole crisis and the oil, because of just-in-time stock management, it's like countries are running out of like things like aircraft fuel. So our ability to travel, a bit like during lockdown where they said, oh, you're not allowed to travel. Well, it's like they're using a different mechanic to keep us from doing stuff like going to Peru or going to meet people in person. So they're forcing everyone online. They love it when everyone's online because AI can
Yeah.
monitor everything that's online. Whereas if I come and meet you in a field and we have a chat in Derbyshire, unless we're filming it, of course, AI has no access to those conversations. So they really love driving everything online. They really don't like people sitting in the jungle in circle doing enlightenment, opening to consciousness of higher dimensional beings and seeing through the veil and collapsing the illusion and bringing through light. You know, the Wetiko really does not like that because it can't survive. as
Yeah.
as that light intensifies, it turns it to dust, like Dracula has to get back in his coffin before dawn, before the sunrise, otherwise he turns to dust. It's like that. So it's really interesting. Oh my goodness. Anyhow, Cal, we've been going now for a little while, and I've remembered I've just got something in the oven actually. So it's
Oh.
quite low heat. I think I'd better go and maybe attend to it shortly. So I think we should sort of start to wrap up. So is there anything else that you would like to put into, any more thoughts, anything you'd like to put into the conversation, anything you'd like people to
Um,
comment on below this video?
I think, well, anything else that can be spoken about can be spoken about in the group. But
Yeah.
one particular thing I want to talk about is, or the last thing is, you know, you spoke about the uh, the energy blockages and all that stuff, and I've got my digestive thing, and therefore it could relate to what
Yeah.
you suggested. What about the heart palpitations? What's that all about exactly? If it is an energy block?
So heart palpitations could simply be, and I might be incorrect on this, but it could simply be lack of magnesium, because I think that was something that Clive de Carle talked about or mentioned when I spoke to him, that there could be a very simple supplement remedy for heart palpitations. But I think anything to do with the heart, if you think about the heart, you know, to do with love and being open hearted. So anything to do like heart attacks, heart palpitations, um, it's maybe a sign that you're not fully open to the flow of love, you know, in just the simplest terms. So it may well be worth looking at the metaphysical causes. So
Hmm.
you've got the sort of physical supplement mineral causes of things, but you've also got a metaphysical root.
Yeah.
but all these things are like medicines. So, like for example, magnesium. I was just drinking a cacao smoothie before we started, and raw cacao is very high in magnesium. Um, and also, if you use magnesium oil, which a lot of natural deodorants are made of magnesium oil, or rub magnesium oil in, it's incredible. I mean, I've healed myself using magnesium oil without question. So it might be worth, and AI is actually quite good for this. If you say, what are the natural remedies for heart palpitations, or what are the metaphysical causes of heart palpitations, and what are the holistic remedies, you get quite a good response actually. Yeah, so it's well worth asking.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, healing and softening our heart is a big part of this work, because when if you think of all of the horror in the world, it's caused by hard-hearted people who are highly traumatized. So the more we can heal our heart and soften our heart and open our heart to love, the more radiant we become, the more powerful we become, because the heart is an extremely powerful, radiant organ. So heart healing is really, really a good thing to focus on. So if your heart is playing up, it's a sign you need heart healing. Yeah. And even actually, Helen Miller, who she used to host the People Speak Out, her website is hearthealer.co.uk, and she does a lot of cacao ceremonies because cacao is a heart medicine, and it's very healing, and on a physical level because it's got magnesium in it, but it's a plant medicine for the heart, whereas ayahuasca is a plant medicine for the third eye, whereas wine, for example, is a plant medicine of the sacral chakra. So it's a bit more of a kind of base level plant medicine. So everything's a plant medicine.
Yeah.
So, and blue lotus, for example, is like for the crown chakra. So anything that contains blue lotus, like fragrance and incense, helps us to open the crown chakra. It's very Egyptian. So plants have huge numbers of usages. It's like when we're doing our liver cleanse, like dandelion leaves, bitter dandelion leaves and wild rocket are really good for the liver to really help cleanse the liver, amongst many other things. So everything's a plant medicine, which is why, going back to what I originally said, just by eating lots of fresh organic fruit and veg, just that alone, and eating across the spectrum, so lots of leafy greens, things like kale and rocket and spinach, all through the colours. So for example, fruits and oranges and lemons for vitamin C, that's really important, right through to things like beetroot is a really powerful remedy, and I think the liver loves beetroot as well, and things like blueberries are packed with antioxidants. So really learning about fruit and veg, and making sure that you have organic, because that way it's not been sprayed with pesticides. So anything sprayed, anything that's not organic, the chances are it's been sprayed with pesticides, and therefore it's toxic. So you might think, oh, this is a lovely leafy green salad, but if it's been sprayed with pesticides, then you think you're eating healthily, but you're actually consuming toxins which put a strain on the liver.
Yeah.
So it's a very fascinating area, and yeah, and I think it's Hippocrates said, or as Plato said, let plants be thy medicine, and let thy medicine be plants, something like that. It's literally aligning to nature, which is why when you prepare for plant medicine, the master plant teachers, you go on a dieta to eat really purely organic, fresh, so that you become like a plant. And I remember in one ceremony actually in Peru on the top of the mountain, I actually turned into a tulip with these huge green leaves. And I was with D Sunshine and I was sort of wrapping him with these leaves, healing him because he was going through a difficult journey. And he was next to me on this rock. And I literally turned into a tulip. It was quite interesting. So, anyway, but Cal, yeah, so thank you for coming on. I think we're going to end it there. Any last
No worries.
words or messages to people? What's the name of your Telegram group?
It's called Balance, Vitality, Positive Energy, and Wisdom.
Cool. And you've got some interesting people on there. You've got John of Ashbourne, the man in the cave.
Yeah.
He's been posting some interesting stuff. So it's great. It's a great group. And I'm loving that you've curated it to keep the energy high, because I know that, it can be a challenge with groups. I find that with mine, with sort of people coming on with quite dark energy, and it's good that you've kept the vibration of it high. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did shut it down, the group, but then I reinstated it.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's
Um,
good to have a communication channel because there's so many doom and gloom channels. It's really good to have a channel devoted to health and well-being and positivity and helping people to find their way out of the darkness back to the light. That's
it's also an expressive thing as well. I mean, freedom of speech, and if you want to just like contemplate on things and things like that.
yes. Yeah, absolutely. So it's all of this is really valuable, and every little piece, we've all got a little piece of the jigsaw. We're all making our little contribution to the collective as we hold the light in especially as things are getting darker. It's really important.
Definitely, still a lot of learning as well to do.
Oh, absolutely. It's a journey for all of us, and you never get it done. There's always more. There's always more. There's always more layers of the onion. There's always more healing, and there's always more alignment. So it's yeah, uh, and we're all on that process, and we've all got something to contribute, whatever stage we are on the journey. So I will put the link to the group below, so people who are interested can join. So thanks, Cal.
No
Lots of
worries.
love.
You too.
Visioning you in full radiant health and vitality, fully functioning stomach, and all heart healed, and all challenges beautifully resolved. Okay. All right. Speak to you soon.
Take care.
Okay. Lots of love, Cal. Bye for now.